Let me ask you a question or three. When you find yourself in a situation you don't know how to handle, who do you turn to? If you lost your income today, what would you do? Who would you turn to for help? If you suddenly became ill and received a devastating diagnosis, how would you handle it? What if something happened and you were afraid for your life? Who would you call on for help to calm your fears and to restore peace in your life? As little children, most of us had our dads and moms or parent figure to turn to. Do you know that the Bible tells us that God is our Father? In fact, God has many names mentioned in the Bible. Each one represents a different facet or aspect of God's personality or characteristics. In a way, it's like God has a ton of middle names. He is God our Father, our Redeemer, our Provider, our Shelter. The list goes on. How many times as a believer, whether you're a new believer or you've been a Christian most of your life, have you heard it said, just call on God, or you need to pray in the name of Jesus or God? Or how about this one? There's power in the name. All of this is true, but what is it about the name of God that is so powerful and so special that we need to call on His name, but never take it in vain? I feel like this is something many of us don't truly understand or have a grasp of. I know there's power in the name of God, but what name do I call on in which situation? Names are so powerful. Have you ever thought about that, or thought about why? Every time someone speaks my name, they call me Field of Fruit. When I speak my son's full name, I am calling him Son of Mighty Power, God's gracious gift. And he is. When you named your children, did you take time to find out what their name meant? What you would be speaking over them for the rest of their lives? Or did you just think of a name that sounded good and kind of stick with it for the rest of their life? In my opinion, names are powerful, but I can agree to disagree if you don't believe that. So what are the names of God? Hello, Carmen here with Lewis Acre Farm and your Thought for Thursday. I recently purchased a book called The Peace and Power of Knowing God's Name by Kay Arthur. This is the book. Here. And today I'm going to begin a 15-week series on a study of just some of the names of God. I'll begin by reading the introduction of the book, followed by a closer look at 15 names of God mentioned in the Bible. Hopefully, we will all come away with a greater understanding of who our God is and when to use the names of God in our prayer life. I hope you'll join me for this adventure, so let's dive in. And I'm going to just read from the book. I'm going to read the introduction. And it says, The Names of the Lord. My friend tells the story of something that happened while his dad was hunting in the wilds of Oregon. Cradling his rifle in the crook of his arm, his dad was following an old logging road nearly overgrown by the encroaching forest. It was early evening, and he was just thinking about returning to camp when a noise exploded in the brush nearby. Before he had even had a chance to lift his rifle, a small blur of brown and white came shooting up the road straight for him. My friend laughs as he tells the story. It all happened so fast, Dad hardly had time to think. He looked down and there was a little brown cottontail, utterly spent, crowded up against his legs, between his boots. The little thing was trembling all over, but it just sat there and didn't budge. Now this was really strange. Wild rabbits are frightened of people, and it's not often that you'd ever actually see one, let alone have one come and sit at your feet. Can't you just picture it? While Dad was puzzling over this, another player entered the scene. Down the road, maybe 20 yards away, a weasel burst out of the brush. When it saw my dad and its intended prey sitting at his feet, the predator froze in its tracks, its mouth panting, its eyes glowing red. It was then Dad understood he had stepped into a little life and death drama of the forest. The cottontail, exhausted by the chase, was only moments from death. Dad was its last hope of refuge. Forgetting its natural fear and caution, the little animal instinctively crowded up against him for protection from the sharp teeth of its relentless enemy. I can just picture the whole scene, can't you? My friend's father did not disappoint. He raised his powerful rifle and deliberately shot into the ground, just underneath the weasel. The animal seemed to leap almost straight into the air, a couple of feet, and then rocketed back into the forest just as fast as its legs could move. For a while, the rabbit didn't stir. It just sat there, huddled at the man's feet in the gathering twilight, while he spoke gently to it. "Where did he go, little one? I don't think he'll be bothering you for a while. Looks like you're off the hook tonight." Soon the rabbit hopped away from its protector into the forest. Where, beloved, do you turn in time of need? Where do you run when the predators of trouble, worry, and fear pursue you? Where do you hide when your past pursues you like a relentless wolf, seeking your destruction? Where do you seek protection when the weasels of temptation, corruption, and evil threaten to overtake you? Where do you turn when your energy is spent, when weakness saps you, and you feel you cannot run away any longer? Do you turn to your protector, the one who stands with arms open wide, waiting for you to come and huddle in the security of all he is? The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and is safe. Proverbs 18:10. Is the Lord your strong tower? Is his name your fortress in a time of weariness or attack or great distress? But how, you ask, could his name defend me? In biblical times, a name represented a person's character. God's name represents his attributes, his nature. His name is a statement of who he is, and he has many names. Each reveals something of his power and love and purposes toward you. The Father longs to have you know him better, that you might trust in the name of the Lord and rely on your God. Isaiah 50:10. Did you know that this was uppermost in the mind and heart of Jesus as he faced the cross? Just before he went to Calvary, he prayed for his disciples, and looking down through the centuries, he prayed for you and me too. His deep desire was that they may know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. John 17:3, King James Version. This was the burning goal of Paul's life and the cry of his heart, that I may know him. Philippians 3:10. Knowing your God means everything. Everything. It's the difference between victory and defeat. It's the difference between rest and constant turmoil. It's the difference between an abundant, overflowing life and a life of barren emptiness. It's the difference between deliverance and captivity. It's the difference between finding a refuge and living as a fugitive. It's the difference between life and death. It's the difference between heaven and hell. David wrote, "Some boast in chariots and some in horses, but we will boast in the name of the Lord our God." Psalm 20, verse 7. In Old Testament days, chariots and horses were two means of protection and escape. Today, our chariots and horses come with different labels, shapes, and forms. Even so, they are still a visible means of help, escape, or protection. Yet, are these really a source of safety? No. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is in the Lord. Proverbs 21:31, King James Version. Why don't we turn to him? Why do we hesitate to run to the arms of our all-sufficient God? Why is it that many collapse in the day of trouble and testing? Why are they immobilized rather than taking an aggressive stand in the face of fear? I think it's because most of us don't really know our God. We don't understand his great power and might. We don't comprehend his fierce love and unspeakable tenderness. And because we don't know him as we should, we can't boast in the name of our God. What do I mean when I say boast in the name of our God? To boast in means to have confidence in, to trust in. To boast in God's name means to have confidence in his name. To know his name is to know him. To boast in his name is to have a settled confidence in everything that he is. In the day of trouble or need, we are to run to our God, to put the full weight of our trust in him. That is why he says, "Call upon me in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me." Psalm 50, verse 15, King James Version. Is your heart troubled? Is fear lurking in the shadows of your consciousness? Do you ever feel like a little rabbit being chased to exhaustion and despair by a relentless, sharp-toothed weasel? Do you feel insecure about anything at all? With every fiber of my being, I believe that every problem in our lives can be traced back to an inadequate or incorrect knowledge of God, or to a lack of faith and trust in His person and His ways. We know so little of this wonderful God who loves us. For the next few pages, as we explore His Word together, ask Him to show you one of His names that will meet your need. Then, when He shows you, and He will, tell Him that you will boast in that name. With that kind of boasting, God is well pleased. Is the Lord your strong tower? Is His name your fortress in a time of weariness or attack or great distress? Thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to leave a comment on what you hope to learn through this series. And yeah, I'm excited about this journey to learn more about the different names of God. Like I said, we're going to be just touching on a few of the names of God. There's 15 in this book. There are more than 15 names of God in the Bible. You know, and as you learn about God and His names, it's like a prism. Every time you turn a prism, there's a new facet to it. You see something new. And that's really what it is when you go to try to learn about God. Just when you think you've learned all that you can, you turn the prism and you see something new. And I'm excited. I'm excited to learn new things about our God. And I hope that you're as excited as I am to be on this journey together. So with that, I will close this one out. I will see you next week as we begin Chapter 1. I am Karma with Lewis Acre Farm, and this has been your Thought for Thursday. See you next time. Bye, guys.